Coogs House. Willie Fritz did it. It's Fritzmas in May.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs, the daily podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. If you want to join the conversation and don't know what to say, tell us if you think goldfish are animal crackers. Think about it before you answer. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, and we got more on that in a moment. But folks, it's an exciting time to be a Houston Cougar with a gigantic commitment on Monday night to wrap up the long Memorial Day weekend. I want to talk some about contextualizing just how big a commitment that was. I want to talk some about what that means could come next in the classes of 2025 and 2026 for the Houston Cougars. But first and foremost, we got to introduce you guys to the guy we're talking about here, and that's Keisean Henderson committing to the University of Houston. Keisean, we've talked about before. We'll revisit that later. Keisean, we talked about before, is 6'3.5". Some places have him at 6'4", about 175 pound, listed as an athlete, ATH, on a lot of different recruiting websites. Some people even have him as more of a wide receiver, although we'll say I saw some impressive defensive plays from him as well. But the big thing here is he's also a quarterback. And I don't just mean like the kind of guy that's like fast and can thus like get away from defenses and run the option as a quarterback. I mean, the kid can flat throw. And I think we'll see in the course of the rest of his high school career and his time at Houston afterwards, being a quarterback's a big deal here, right? Keisean, I should point out, is a 98.25 rating on the composite on 24/7. That means he's averaging that rating as a recruited athlete, ATH. That's incredibly high. We'll talk more about that in the contextualizing part of his recruitment, but that's incredibly high, to say the very, very least. He runs in the 4.5s. He's got that kind of wiggle to him. As a sophomore last year at Legacy School of Sports and Sciences in Spring, Texas, he threw for 20,000 yards, or for 2,025 yards. I'm just excited. I'm going too fast. 2,025 yards, 28 touchdowns through the air, 4 on the ground, just 4 interceptions. Right, the kid's accurate. The kid makes good decisions. Right. He also, for its worth, part of that ATH recruitment is that he was a 1,000-yard receiver as a freshman at Legacy Sports and Sciences. And frankly, in Googling him, he's gone viral for wearing a raccoon skin cap with tail and all to various national 7-on-7 tournaments with Team DEFCON. If you're in the 7-on-7 team, that's like one of the best teams in the country. And he plays receiver and defense there. Again, that's some of the top athletes in the country at 7-on-7 out there in shorts. Some people think of it as football, some people think of it as not. But I will say he makes some impressive plays out there too in a raccoon skin cap. This is an open invitation to Keisean. If you ever want to find somewhere to explain the thought process behind the raccoon skin cap, or just come on and wear them and talk about football, I'll find one myself and we can do it. I'm that into this. I can get into wearing a raccoon skin cap. It means we get guys like Keisean to come to the University of Houston to play football. Now, I will point out, and we'll talk about this in the contextualizing segment later, that I think I kind of saw this one coming. And I think that's because he is a quarterback that can play receiver and safety. And a lot of people in the country see him as a athlete. And I think that the distinguishing factor there is that Houston saw him as a quarterback and recruited him as a quarterback, and Willie Fritz's staff pulled him in as a quarterback. Playing quarterback for a hometown team is every kid's dream, but I have to add that when your other options are looking more and more like they have you pigeonholed into something else, Houston having the open mind to say, hey, what are you going to come play? I think you can play quarterback. Let's do it. Because again, He had 2,025 yards and 28 touchdowns through the air last season as a sophomore in high school playing receiver the year before. This is not just like saying, hey, it's Make-A-Wish, come play whatever you play. No, it's not like that at all. And when you watch his tape of him playing quarterback, he's got an incredibly strong arm. He's hitting guys where the ball travels 45 and 50 yards downfield in the air. Admittedly, those guys are typically behind the defense, right? He's not just throwing it willy-nilly into a crowd of people that far down the field, but he is able to bomb it. I thought that was one of the more impressive things. Another thing that stuck out to me about Keisean Henderson watching his quarterback-specific tape is that he hangs in the pocket. Right, his guy's been out there playing receivers, played some defense, and he understands that it's a violent game. He sits in the pocket and is taking contact as he's delivering the football and does not seem fazed by it, especially when you factor in that tape is of him playing as a sophomore last season, right? A much younger guy than the guys in the field around him, typically. And I think that you see that toughness, the guy that can play all the different positions, the athlete, that toughness shines through and through and through. Now, I would be remiss if I did not point out that one of the things that also sticks out about him on the field is not just that toughness, but he clearly enjoys playing football. I'm talking about a kid that has, and I don't mean this in like he doesn't like demean other teams or anything like that, or he celebrates everything: completions, first downs, and cool jukes, touchdowns for sure. He is out there enjoying every second of it. And while old people or old school people might think like, wow, just, get the first down, pass the ball to the ref, keep going, right. I think that energy and enthusiasm is contagious in a way that is actually something you want to have out of a leader on your football team, like the quarterback. And again, I'm not saying to get in like people's faces and put down the other team, whatever that gets you penalties, frankly, right? That can detract from winning. But a guy that can keep the troops moving and get them excited about getting up and hitting someone in the face the next play over and over and over. And it makes you less tired, right? It makes the game more fun. And I think that his enthusiasm for what he does each and every play looks contagious. And I think that's the kind of thing he can bring to Houston as well. There's one clip, and I don't have the rights to it, so I'm not going to pull it up, but he is rolling out to his left. And frankly, it's kind of a bootleg to his left. He's a right-handed kid, and he's charging line of scrimmage. And it looks like he's going to take off and run. And the defense immediately comes up to play because you got to come up and collapse the space on him as a safety or corner. You can't let him wiggle outside, whatever, right? All the different things you would coach a defensive back to do. But he hadn't broken line of scrimmage yet, and he wheels back and cocks the ball and throws like 40 yards in the air to an admittedly wide open wide receiver, but his body is still going left. He flips his hips right while his body is still moving and flips the ball with essentially just his upper body strength because his legs are still running out of bounds to the left, trying, take the line of scrimmage or whatever on the bootleg. And again, obviously, the guy did not have a lot of defenders around him that he completed the ball to. It ended up being a really big completion for LSSS. But I do just the mechanics and strength to throw that ball as a sophomore in high school is otherworldly, right? This is a top tier, top caliber athlete and the kind of game changer that's going to help turn the Houston Cougar program around, perhaps by himself. But I also want to talk about what happens if it's not by himself. I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about this, and that includes who could be coming with him. So without further ado, I want to jump into what those other guys coming with him could look like, what the trickle down, the domino effect of this could be, and then I want to contextualize how big a signing this would be if it carries all the way to signing day. But first, while we're winning, let's talk about keeping the winning going over at FanDuel, because it's a winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets to any winning $5 bets. $150 to bet on point spread, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. NBA Finals are seemingly being set as we talk about this. The Celtics, I guess, just wrapped it up with some chaos at the end of that one, as there was each of the Celtics games. It felt like the Mavs and Timberwolves are, I guess, fairly close. Anyway, go to FanDuel, put your money where your mouth is, enjoy the winning along the way, just like the Cougars are in the recruiting circles right now. But FanDuel.com/locked on, make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, so I think a lot of people see signing quarterbacks as important because when a high caliber athlete and quarterback signs, suddenly all of the other positions, the receivers that he would be throwing to, the running backs that he would be handing it to, the linemen that would be blocking for him, the defense that would be getting him the ball back, all of those different other position groups suddenly start to fall in line like dominoes, right? And that is because for the quarterback plays a disproportionate level of influence on how the game goes, and an exciting playmaking quarterback like Keisean, right? I guess he's been going by Key. I should like to start saying Key, like Key. An exciting, game-changing quarterback can make all those other guys realize something special is happening there. I go there. We've got that position, the most important position, single position on the field, taken care of. I can add in this way. I can do my thing at wideout. I can do my thing at safety. I can do my thing at linebacker. I can do my thing on defense and know that position, the most important one in the field, is taken care of. I think this really stuck out to Houston Cougar fans when they saw the Ja'Cory Watson tweet, which was a retweet of Keisean Henderson's commitment with the nice brother, and then the eyes staring at him. Now, Ja'Cory is a composite 4-star high-end wide receiver that has Houston in his top 5. That top 5 includes Baylor, Boston College, Ole Miss, and A&M. I would point out that Ja'Cory is also from the Shadow Creek High School in Pearland, which you'll notice a couple of our 2024 recruits, high-end recruits, came from. A lot of our 2025 targets and some of our commits as well are from nice pipeline being built there to a great program. I'm going to be pulling kids in from. But Ja'Cory, as a class of 2025 wide receiver, making that tweet with the googly eyes or the side eyes staring at Keisean is exactly the kind of domino we're talking about here, because as a 2025 receiver, he knows that, maybe he redshirts or whatever, but ultimately the bulk of his college career would be at the same time as Key's career in Houston as well, right? And so you see, okay, the separators here between A&M, Ole Miss, Boston College, Baylor, and Houston, maybe staying close to home. I mean, Houston, A&M, and Baylor are all in Texas. Houston's obviously in his hometown, right? It may be playing with a high-level quarterback. What's that going to look like at Baylor or Ole Miss? Or, oh, wait, Houston locked that down, right? Especially, again, for the bulk of his career. And if and when Ja'Cory, and I hope he does commit in the near future, commits as a class 2025 guy, we'll break that down. The guy's got incredible tape, 5'10", $175, very talented wideout, right? A very, very talented wideout. But that's the kind of thing you could see trickle in here. And the social media presence makes you wonder, okay, wait a second, what could be going on here? Similarly, you've got linebacker Caleb Burns from Cy Falls High School. He's listed as a 3-star. He's got Houston in his top 7. His top 7 came out over Memorial Day weekend. And Houston's in his top 7. I will say that Houston's the only school, not the only school in Texas, but only school in the Houston area on his top 7. He's got TCU, SMU, and Baylor as well. I think most people are picking him to stay in the state of Texas. He also has Texas Tech, a little bit farther away, but also in the state of Texas in his top 7. It's just where within that 7 does he decide to stay? The lone couple out-of-school options there are Florida and Washington. Washington having just changed coaches, though, I wonder how it's going to go. I think Houston got a real shot at him. This kind of thing, though, where as a inside or outside linebacker. He's been listed as both at different times in recruiting. It looks like I can see Caleb kind of being like, wait a second, Houston got the quarterback locked down. So I know that, when I get the offense back, they're going to go do something, the ball back, they're going to go do something with it. Or I know that, if I can just, get off the field on defense, I actually, get some time off the field while the offense is driving down, we'll win some games. We've got an electric quarterback. Those kinds of things. I could see that all factoring in, especially when you factor in that, much like Caleb, Key, or Mo Williams, Maurice from the 2024 class, are committing as a way to stay at home and play for the city. Being from Cy Falls, you got to think that influences something to guys like Caleb Burns out there as well. Similarly, I think that Raheem Hutchins, Rara Hutchins from Pearland Shadow Creek in the 2025 class, plays with Jacory as well. He's a 3-star receiver on some boards. Some places have him as a 4. His composite's like right on that line at 88 and change. He listed his top 3 over Memorial Day weekend: Houston, Memphis, and Nebraska. Interestingly enough, this is a domino that could see falling with Keisean Henderson, but not necessarily a domino that means that you don't also get Jacory. Receivers have a couple of them on the field at a time. I've mentioned on the podcast one, I think Houston's going to be a lot more of a 3 wide receiver kind of team moving forward, if not 2. It's still multiple. And I also think that's a position you feel like you can't ever get too many of. Rara Hutchins lists at 6 foot 160. I think he's actually a little bigger than that when I watch some of his film stuff. But I guess I'll let him prove that on his own. I'm excited. Those are all 3 guys 2025 class. And I think what's interesting is in nailing the top target for Houston in the 2026 class, what you've told is the entire world, but most importantly, this 2025 class, that you mean business, you're here for it, and you're going to have the talent. You got Keisean signed up, you got him locked up. Let's make sure we ride this thing out and add talent around him with guys like Raheem Hutchins, Caleb Burns, or Corey Watson, all of whom who let out more other different recruiting news over the weekend. I think bringing them in is going to be really, really key as Houston looks to build on this monumentous commitment from Keisean Henderson. I want to talk about what is such a big deal about that in a second. So Keisean Henderson commits to University of Houston Monday night. Frankly, he kind of tweeted out during the day like, hey, commitment's coming at 7. And at 7, you just start seeing the graphics fly, right? I mentioned earlier, Jacory retweeted with his eyes above one, but like cool graphics. It's always good to see this kind of thing to the University of Houston in them. But I have to say, while this was shocking to a lot of people in the national recruiting community, it wasn't shocking to all of us. Let's take a look. All right, I said the question for this program may very well be what comes after Donovan Smith, not because I think we should look past how much fun this fall could be with Donovan, but because ultimately, his last year in the program is overlapping with Fritz's first year in the program, and the decision they make with what comes next could be really important. And in looking at the arm talent, there were 3 quarterbacks that stick out as far as like names you got to know. Keisean Henderson was one of the bigger surprises. He's a 2026 athlete. He's actually being recruited as a wide receiver to a lot of Power 5 schools, like top tier Power 5 schools. He's considered a top 10 wide receiver in the state of Texas at 6'3", 185 pounds out of the Legacy School of Sports and Sciences from Spring, Texas. However, I think it's interesting that he's considered a top tier receiver, and it's considering Houston because Houston's looking at him as a quarterback, and he does want to throw the football, it sounds like, right, in 2026. He's got some big time, blue blood of the blue blood Power 5 offers as a receiver. He also plays on the defensive side of the ball, some safety and corner. But Houston's made it as one of the schools that people are considering him high on in recruit rankings and evaluations because Houston has offered him as a quarterback. He's been a high school quarterback. That's what he thinks he is good at. And frankly, being the school that offers him as a quarterback may ultimately land the kid in Houston if he were to come. Now, asking for why I'm excited about that, I love it. I love it. I love it. Which also brings me to who may be next. Now, Keisean Henderson is an interesting pickup for Houston if he were to come. Keisean Henderson is a 2026 high school recruit, so he would not be on campus for a solid, 2 years at this point, right? So you'd get Donovan, then you get Zion, and then coming after Zion with either a red shirt or competing for the job, whatever, would be Keisean Henderson. Keisean is listed at 6'3.5", about 175 pounds, and an athlete positionally in recruit rankings. He listed as the top athlete by position. It's a big thing that he wants to do. He runs a 4.5. He's also coached by Michael Bishop, a 1998 Heisman runner-up out at LSSS. And I think it's interesting to see, like, he doesn't want to get pigeonholed into this receiver thing. 2026, and that's going to be really important, to kind of mold the offense around. Interesting to see that they see these speed guys. Donovan can run, and so they can probably do a lot of the same things with him under center next year as well. But it's interesting to see kind of guys that they're looking at that spot, a very important spot at that, and something to keep an eye on as Houston moves forward. Now, and all that, they're going to get more resources to the SEC, but I say that to say that of the schools that people are high on connecting Keisean Henderson with, I think Houston's got a real shot here, and he would be a transformative type of athlete to come through Houston. I mean, it would be the kind of guy that I remember watching him play as you're talking about a long time from now, right? He's that kind of talented athlete. But Houston offering him a quarterback spot when he can play quarterback, this is not just like out of the blue, is interesting. It ultimately seems like it's going to come down to, does Keisean Henderson want to play quarterback and build at a program like Houston, or go to a program that's established and built already and be a receiver, right? And I know what I would pick. You only get to live the dream out once. You can always switch positions in the pros. Like, again, I mentioned Greg Ward earlier, like he did. If that's what they decide your pro position is, or you can come show you can play it and get to go play it at the pro level, right? Like, I think that's a win-win.
Coogs House, the Houston Cougars land a big one. I'm your host of Locked On Cougs, Parker Ainsworth, and Willie Fritz and staff get the number one athlete in the class of 2026 to say he's staying home. Locked On Cougs has been bringing it out for a little bit now, but a big part has to be that Houston's told Keisean Henderson he can stay and play quarterback. Again, number one athlete in class 2026. Lots of things to talk.
I don't mean to say I told you so, but I want to stress how excited I am about all of this. And I want to stress that since the beginning of this kid's recruitment under the current staff, this is a transformative moment for the program. As it stands, Keisean Henderson is wrapping up his sophomore year of high school. He's going into his junior season. Your rankings can change. You can add stars, lose stars, etc. I want to stress that most of the time you see some of these guys go up. You rarely see them drop down over the course of their time unless there's like major career-altering injuries and whatever, so knock on wood. But as it stands, Keisean Henderson, as a commitment, is the second highest ranked recruit to ever commit to the University of Houston. Ever. History of the program, ever, full stop. As a sophomore, the only player ranked higher by recruiting websites and recruiting composite scores is Ed Oliver. And that's his senior year ranking. Right now, I understand that is a lot of burden to put on a young man's shoulders. And I don't mean to say he can do it on his own. I would make the argument, I'm sure I'll make the argument in the course of the next handful of shows, that he's committing this early to not have to put it all on his shoulders, to let the class of 2025 know, to let the class of 2026 kids know, hey, I'm going there, y'all come with me, right? I'm sure that's a part of this. But alone, on his own, he has already put Houston in a spot where you haven't seen them in a long, long time. And he's playing the quarterback, the most important position in team sports, right? Full stop. And, I could talk about how, so in the class 2026, Houston's jumped up to the 11th overall class nationally with his recruitment on its own, with his commitment on its own, right? That's in large part because most people have like one or two 2026 commitments at this point. It's pretty early for those kids. And he's ranked so high that like the 10 schools that have a 5-star commitment are ahead of us. And Houston's the highest after that. Right. I could mention that puts Houston as the number one 2026 class in the Big 12, number one 2026 class in the state of Texas. And that's fun for trash talk at your water cooler, right? Um, I could talk about how this is the big fish for Willie Fritz and company, and that you could see that's the class of 2026. By Keisean's sophomore year class 2027, you're kind of at the end of this contract of Willie Fritz's, and you might have something really rolling very quickly. His first group of kids will be in their upperclassmen stages. You have the young quarterback come in that can play at the next level, and suddenly you've got a program built, right? I could talk about how they kept Maurice Williams between the transition of administration here. They went out and got Keisean. They're winning in the city of Houston. And we all know that if Houston were to just win Houston, they could take over college football. All of those things are on the table here. But part of me also thinks that it's fun that Houston got the kid that wears the raccoon skin cap out at 7-on-7 and is running around having a good time. This is a modern leader in a lot of ways of young men, and he's going to be out there being the boisterous, rambunctious, fun time while scoring a lot of touchdowns that I think pulls everyone in the same way Greg Ward pulled everyone in, the same way Case Keenum pulled everyone in. And I'm talking about at a national level, people wanted to watch what was happening in Houston when those kinds of quarterbacks were there. This kid feels, even if he's only halfway through his high school career, an awful lot like that. And that's in and of itself just the potential for it all exciting enough for you and I to talk about it all week long. Now we have hoop stuff to talk about too, Big 12 stuff to talk about, frankly, the compensation of athletes and the future of college football stuff to talk about. Recruiting news, I'm sure we'll have Brian on this week too. We're working on that if we can get on the same schedule. All kinds of things to talk about the Houston Cougars. So make sure you hit subscribe and hit the bell for notification on YouTube so you know when we are live, because we have so many different things to talk about. Locked On Cougs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. It means your team, our Houston Cougars, Keisean Henderson's Houston Cougars, each and every day. Go Cougs.